We're good. As far as I can tell, anyway. Okay, looks like we're good. Looks like we're good. So there's that. Let me clean these off. And make sure I can see chat, because I can't see chat right now. But hello, everybody. I hope everybody's doing really well. I hope everybody is having a great day. Does it show it? No, it doesn't. Okay, perfect. So we are live on YouTube and on Twitch as well. We are ready to get started. I'm just cleaning off my glasses because I slept in. So, like, I'm not exactly in the most prepared state. What else is new, right? So we're getting started. We're going to play some Minecraft. I'm going to continue with Minecraft. We were looking for ancient debris a couple of days ago, the last time I streamed. But as we were playing, I went to go level up my armor. And I was informed that with the latest update, you can't just upgrade your armor anymore. You need to actually collect a certain item to do the upgrade. And my understanding is the only way to get that certain item is to go through... either collecting it at bastions, which will only randomly spawn in a bastion, which is going to be a nightmare to try to get to, or you can, I don't know if you can make it yourself, or you have to have an original one and you can double it, something like that, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. So we're probably going to go look for that, because I would like to have some netherite armor. I have one netherite pickaxe, but the netherite armor is what I'm more interested in than having like netherite swords and stuff. So that's what I think we're gonna have to do. I don't even know what it's called, the thing that you're supposed to get. Let me just look real quick and then we'll get started. I am... How do you get a smithing template? Give me a second here. I'm just reading. Dang it. Yeah, it's just the bastions. Man, okay, so I do need at least one. Merle, hello, nice to see you. Hyper, hello to you. Inuyugi, hello as well. I hope everybody's doing really well. Sorry, I was reading. I was talking while nobody was here, so I'm pretty sure nobody heard. That's okay. So we were playing Minecraft a couple of days ago during my last stream, and I discovered, I was informed that we can no longer... well, I discovered, and then I was informed how to. I discovered we can no longer just upgrade our armor or diamond. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee. I slept in, so I haven't had my breakfast. I'm like trying to eat really quickly while still like doing the stream. Thank you, Merle. Thank you. I like the shirt too. I really like this shirt. It used to not fit me. When I bought it, it was when I was really skinny, and it was too big when I bought it. It was it's a large, and it was too big when I bought it. And now that I've gotten huskier, it fits. It's like the only shirt that fits me, my only gaming shirt that fits me. The other ones are all mediums, and they all don't fit. They're all too tight. I still wear them anyway. You all get to see some moobs without having to pay for my OF. And so it's my only shirt that fits, but I like it. Anyways, I was informed that in order to actually upgrade your netherite, you need to have a... Hey, Brian, how you doing, man? How's it going? You need to have what the heck is it called? A template. A netherite template or whatever, or a netherite upgrade template, something like that. And the only place you can get that, from what I was just reading, that's what I was looking up, see where I could get them, is in the bastion. And the one bastion I discovered, I've already explored, and it's supposed to randomly spawn inside the treasure chests in there. So I'm pretty sure that it's no longer available in that fortress or in that bastion. So we're gonna have to go look for a bastion. I'm not excited about that. I don't want to find a bastion. It's gonna really suck, because this seed has been really weird finding stuff, and the bastion was just a lucky find for me. I might go there and just kind of double check. Maybe I missed a chest or something. I doubt it though. And then it's just gonna be a good luck to me type of game, and hopefully we find something. I have a hard time with bastions. I was explaining this last time. I lost my armor twice at this bastion. So I'm gonna basically just put on my armor and leave everything behind except for a sword, a pickaxe, and my bow. And hope and pray that we don't die. But yeah, that's pretty much the goal for today. I'm not feeling great. I normally eat 2 pieces of toast in the morning, but I'm not like, I only ate one and like half of the second one, and I'm just not feeling it today. I don't know why. I slept in. My eyes are probably all swollen and like big bags and stuff. I slept in. I don't know why. I was really excited. I got home relatively early yesterday, and I went to bed at 3:30. And so I was like, okay, I go to bed at 3:30. Like I went to sleep. I fell asleep at 3:30, but I was sitting there at like 3, and I was like, okay, if I fall asleep by the next half an hour, 3:30, I'll be up by like 10:30, which is like a 7-hour sleep, and then I can get up and be ready to stream for 11:30. It'll be perfect. And I woke up at 11:30. I don't know. I never sleep that long. It was crazy. Sud, hello, welcome. Yes, I am playing Minecraft. I am. There we go. No fancy transition. It breaks my heart. Breaks my heart every time. Oh, the window's not the right size. Hey, what happened? What happened with the window? Why is it all weird shaped? Hold on. What's going on here? Oh, I know what happened. Okay. I was like, there's a big yellow thing in the middle of a Minecraft. Why? Sorry for everybody on TikTok and Twitch. YouTube and Twitch, you don't see what I'm talking about, but I put this thing on. I just don't know which one it is. Hold on. Let me find it. Is it this one? Yes, there we go. Okay, you can see the Minecraft, and so can Twitch and YouTube. I think we're good to go. Yeah, so apparently, Brian, you can get the template in the... Is this the one? Yeah. You can get the template in the bastions. Apparently, it will always spawn in a bastion. In one of the chests. It's guaranteed to be in there. From what I remember seeing on a video that was talking about all the new upgrades. And you can duplicate it, but it is expensive. You need something like 7 diamonds, something else, and a template in order for it to actually duplicate. The upside is once you find one, you can kind of set it aside and then just go for some diamond hunting instead of having to find a million bastions. Where I kind of screwed myself is the fact that I already went through a bastion, so the one bastion that I know of doesn't have it or shouldn't have it. I'm gonna check anyway just in case, but it shouldn't be available there. So I'm gonna put my stuff in this base because the bastion that I checked is somewhere near this area, so that's what we're gonna do. So let's get rid of... I'm gonna keep a totem for sure. There are my 2 pieces of netherite that we went through all that trouble looking for. Oh, now we can't even use them. Okay, I don't want to take the shovel. I don't want to take my second pickaxe. I don't want to take my regular axe. Got my bow. Got my totem. I got my shield. I really feel like I should have my totem equipped and not my shield. I could be wrong, Sud. I could be wrong. What happened to my chest plate? Oh, wait, I was going to upgrade it. That's what it was. Okay, whew. Mini heart attack there. So I could be wrong. I was watching a guy who was doing like all the newest updates, and he talked about a bunch of stuff. And I know he said one of the new templates is guaranteed in a chest, but I can't remember if he said like the ones in like the pillager outpost, or if it was the one in the bastion. I want to say it was the one in the bastion, but he said one of them is guaranteed every time in one of the chests. I just can't remember which one he said. Is the stream running smooth? Seems like it is. Ooh, I got a weird delay. That is weird. Okay. So first thing I'm gonna check is there's a pillager outpost just over here. So I'm just gonna check the pillager outpost just real quick to see if maybe it spawned. I doubt it, but maybe, I don't know. Sometimes the updates are all kind of broken, right? The Dark, hello, nice to see you. Welcome. How are you? Okay. Unless the pillager outpost despawned somehow. It was... Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, I was like, it was over here somewhere. Okay. I'm good. I'm good. Still waking up. I slept in. I was just talking about this a minute ago. I planned to fall asleep and be up. Like to sleep for about 7 hours and then be up in time to stream. Oh, did I? I thought I got an LA, but I guess not. That's what they're called, right? Oh, crap, I don't really want to go up there because there's one of those guys. I don't want to fight him. I think I broke the chest, though. I think it was during a time that I didn't have a lot of wood or anything, so I think I broke the chest. Okay, let's go back. We'll head to the bastion. Anyways, I meant to sleep 7 hours, and I ended up sleeping 8, but, like, I woke up on my own. It wasn't like I woke up startled or anything, but for some reason I have been so tired the last couple of days. Shut up, Microsoft. That it feels... Oh, I'm not live on Kick. Get out of here. Anybody watching, I'm live on Twitch and YouTube, not on Kick. Ignore the Kick logo. Ignore the Kick logo. Where's my logos? Is this the one? Oh, that's my logo. Give me a second here. Give me a second here. I'm not live on Kick. I am live on Twitch. You can't even see it. What happened? What happened? Hold on. Live on Twitch. They both say Twitch now. It's not both Twitch. I'm live on Twitch and YouTube, anybody that's wondering. Live on Twitch and YouTube's. I was trying Kick, and it wasn't really doing anything for me. And then the amazing douchebag who helped spawn that site had to go out and open his big fat mouth and just make me dislike him again. So I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna stream on there. It wasn't doing anything for me anyway. So we are not live there. We are live on Twitch and YouTube. Twitch and YouTube. Thoughts on DK Oldies? I would never buy anything from them. I'm not stupid enough to pay 4 times the price with a fake it's on sale thing on top of it. Unless it was a game that's incredibly hard to get. Like if it's a game that's already really rare to find, let alone be able to, you know, purchase it at a decent price, I would pay the extra price just for the convenience of being able to get it. Outside of that, they're the same as any other company, really. I do feel a little bit weary about the fact that they use the word refurbished so loosely from what I've seen. I've never purchased from them, so I can't speak directly. I'm not saying that it is how it is, because I've had plenty of comments that say that they've bought stuff and it's been in great condition and whatever. But I've seen enough stuff that's come out in not good condition that I wouldn't buy from them. I would rather support a local mom and pop shop than a shop that puts fake sales up. Or not fake, but like very exaggerated sales up. and that doesn't always refurbish things to the best of their ability, you know. Outside of that, though, I don't think anybody buying from them is really a bad thing. You know, they're a business like any other. They're going to try to make their money. I just won't support them. I have no interest in supporting them. Oh, man. I've been wanting to play that. So, back when I was a youngin', back when I... What's the saying from Futurama? Back when I was full of piss and vinegar and my bed wasn't. Hey, there you are. How did you spawn in here? What? I'm so confused. I just talked about him. He hasn't been around for multiple streams. Did you see my last message? What's your favorite video game? It's Silent Hill 1 on the PS1. I'm so mad that they're not remaking that one, that they're remaking 2. Number 2 is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I think number 2 being remade is pretty cool. But I want number 1 just because I'm a big fan of number 1. Anyways, back when I was younger and I didn't really worry too much about piracy because, you know, oh, I didn't bring anything gold. I'm going to get attacked like crazy. Let's go get gold real quick. I mysteriously found a bunch of discs of games that I totally 100% legitimately owned copies of, that were physical copies that I owned and I totally had real legitimate copies of. I also had burned copies of the same game for backup purposes so I could keep my legitimate total one that I really actually owned in mint condition. And that was one of the games that I got, and I played it quite a bit. Now, I know now that it was ADHD, but at the time I just thought I was just really, really easily distracted. I had a really bad habit. I still have that really bad habit where I buy a game. Oh crap. Okay, well I guess we'll just I don't want to use a chest plate though. Here we go. That's good. We'll use this one. I left the other one at the other base, so that's okay. Anyways, I still have the same problem, but like I downloaded a bunch of games. I was playing that one quite a bit, but then in the excitement of being able to, I mean, I legitimately owned all the games and I had a backup copy. I was so excited that I legitimately made a backup copy of, oh, you scare me. Your sound effect is creepy. That I made backup copies of other games and I got distracted and I never went back to try that game. That's always been a game that I've wanted to play. Because I do remember that I had a lot of fun playing it, and I'm a big fan of JRPGs, especially turn-based old school JRPGs. So I really want to play it, but I know it's a collector's piece and I know it's fairly expensive, so I'm probably never gonna play it unless I find my totally legitimate copy that I owned and legitimately had a copy of from before. Type 2 McDouble, I don't remember the exact quote, so I don't want to misquote, but I just remember it was something bigoted that he said. Not that it was bigoted, it was very much skewed to what the reality was. I'm highly paraphrasing here. I'm highly taking liberties with what he said because I don't remember the exact wording. It has to do with the whole Nick Merckx, Tim the Tatman thing. And then he went out and just basically said something along the lines of like, people are trying to pretend like they're inclusive and instead are attacking people for their beliefs and are just being performative, basically. Which is very much a skewed opinion with what he is saying. And I'm not going to get into it because I do believe that teachers are probably the best choice to talk to kids about acceptance and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get into super deep detail about it. I have plenty of friends and family members in the LGBTQIA+ community. And I am not at all concerned with a teacher teaching my child something. Because although I have healthcare education, although I've gone to college numerous times, although I am relatively well educated, I also know that I am not educated in child psychology or in child development and all that kind of stuff. So I would rather leave it to a professional to address situations. But that guy was already a very trashy person. He's already a very toxic person. I just recently watched a whole, like, not biography, but like the background of how he ended up where he is now. And just overall, he is a toxic person. Overall, he is a fairly disgusting person. And so I was already kind of uncomfortable being on Kick because he's one of the founders and I don't want to support toxic behavior like his. And then he had to go and say what he said, and it's just not how the world works. So I'm not a fan. It gets complicated, type 2. This is the problem. This is the problem. And this is where I think Nick Merckx and Tim the Tam, I'm not going to go past this after I talk about this. I'm dropping the subject completely because they don't deserve my energy. The problem with these guys is they're already defending a stance that is proven to not be a good stance, because someone who is part of the LGBTQIA community is just a person. Who they choose to love, who they choose to be with is nobody's business. And it's nobody's concern, right? As long as it's two consenting adults, who cares? The fact that these people are trying to make it out to be like it's this really important thing you need to teach your child about is stupid, because my kid is 8 and she understands what a trans person is, and we didn't have to discuss sex at all. And when I asked her if she knew what a trans person was, she had like the most basic response, and that's all that she needs to know. That being said, treating them like there's something that you have to educate your child about in a way that is so touchy that you can't have anybody else do it but yourself, and you have to teach your own kids, automatically puts that stigma on the fact of somebody being LGBTQ. And it's not, it shouldn't be. That's like saying you want to educate your child about somebody being black, or educate your child about, you know, immigrants. We just exist, right? And I would much rather have a professional with education behind them teaching my child than some moron who plays video games all day for a living, who says hateful things on a regular basis, teach their child and think that they're going to do a better job. They're just going to instill that same hatred into their child, instead of somebody who doesn't have that perspective and who has some kind of oversight committee making sure that what they're teaching is, you know, balanced. Because that is how we have continued to have racism, despite, you know, all of that stuff being abolished 60 years ago. We still have it because parents want to teach their kids everything, and they continue to teach that hateful behavior, right? And so by his argument, it really distills down to, I want to be allowed to teach my kids to be hateful. And that's just a stupid stance. And that's where I stand with it. Now, the whole cancellation thing, that's where things get really murky and weird, mainly because cancel culture, in my opinion, isn't like, it's not exactly not a real thing, but it's also not exactly a real thing. That's a really blurry thing, because like people can get upset and quote unquote cancel somebody, but the truth is nobody ever really gets canceled. How many people have been quote unquote canceled and are still around doing stupid shit, right? Nobody ever really gets canceled. They just have to deal with some repercussions for what they said or did. At the same time, I don't like the whole cancel culture thing, because a lot of companies will take that as a way to kind of show off. Do you know what I mean? And that I think is stupid. I was talking about this recently with a friend of mine. Culture Club and be at peace with each other. Yeah, I think it's not the thing is, type 2, we're not like people who are standing up for the LGBTQ IA plus. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at remembering the acronym. Anyways, the problem is that it's not like people are fighting for, you know, kids to watch them have sex, right? But just the way that moms and dads can kiss in front of kids, or there are shows where like the boy falls in love with the girl and it ends off with like the kiss at the end of the night, and that's like the big thing in the movie. Why is that okay? But if it was two boys or if it was two girls, all of a sudden it's not allowed. All of a sudden that's sexual. But two straight people doing it, it's not sexual, right? Like that's where the problem lies with like saying you don't want kids to see it, because why can kids see straight people do it but they can't see, you know, somebody who might be gay do it? It's a very double-edged sword. It's a double standard that doesn't need to exist, because two people loving each other is two people loving each other. It's not like we're asking for, you know, kids to be allowed to watch them have sex, because you wouldn't let them watch straight people have sex. You're not going to let them watch gay people have sex either. That's not part of the argument in any way. The whole point is that they exist, and that it's okay to exist that way, and that it's okay to love who you want to love. That's all it is. That's the whole argument. But then a lot of people are converting it to be something sexual or something darker than what it is, when it's not. It literally is not. But that's just what it is. As far as I can't remember. I was gonna say something else. But I don't remember. And that's it, right? I don't want anybody in my business either, right? And that's the whole frustration that a lot of people have. Oh, I was talking about cancel culture. That's the whole frustration that a lot of people have, is why do you care what I am doing with my life? All I want is to just be treated like everybody else, right? Like if I'm walking down the street now, I'm straight, so I'm not part of the community at all. But like if I'm walking down the street holding, but I'm a minority, right? Like I'm Latino, and there are people that still believe that I shouldn't be allowed to date anybody if they're not Latino, and like I've been told that it's wrong for me to interbreed, because I've dated white women, and it's wrong of me to do that, and like that's stupid, like that's completely and utterly stupid, and why is it anybody's business what I'm doing? Right? Like, why is it anybody's business who I decide to date? Whether they were a woman or a man or black or Asian or white, like it's nobody's business. It would be different if I was walking up to you and saying, hey, you need to date this person because I think that it's okay. That's where the problem lies. And that's exactly what the other side is doing. Because it's nobody's business what I do. As long as I'm not inflicting any kind of damage or anything to somebody else, just shut up and leave me alone. Simple as that. Now back to the cancel culture thing. The big problem is that a lot of companies are using it as kind of like a way to, I can't remember what the phrasing is that everybody uses, but they're like grandstanding, right? Like, look how accepting we are. We're also canceling this person for what they did. But the truth is they don't actually care. They care about the dollars. They care about the money that's going to be taken away from them from the outcry that people have, whether it's positive or negative. Because this is what I was getting at before. What I was talking about with one of my friends is, I think it's McDonald's has coffee for like the Keurig machines. And the little cardboard stand that they have to put the machine on, to put the coffee containers on, there's big wording on the side that says ethically sourced. Now, for those who don't know, when they're talking about ethically sourced, they're meaning that like they pay their people fairly. It's not slave wages. They're not, using land that they've destroyed or whatever in order to keep it and all that kind of stuff. That's what it means by ethically sourced. Their big crowning achievement that they're using as a way to say like, hey, buy from us is we didn't use slaves, buy from us. That's not a selling point. That's like if you go to a job appointment, like a application, and you get an interview, and then they say to you, have you ever murdered somebody? And you go, no, you should hire me because I've never murdered somebody. That's not something to be proud of. That should just be the way it is. But these businesses use that as a way to be like, look how good we are. We didn't use slaves. That's not. So when it comes to the whole cancel culture thing, that's where I really get frustrated, is these companies use that as a way to kind of pat themselves on the back when they're really not concerned at all. %, agreed. Yeah, you've heard the same thing. Exactly. So like it goes the same way with the LGBTQIA community, right? Is people are looking at it in a way that that's not what it is, right? Like I said, I'm not part of that community, so I can't speak for them. All I know is that it's a lot of bigoted stances, and in the end, the stance that Nick Merckx and Tim the Tatman have are stupid. Like, it's as simple as that. I've had to like, we were mutuals. I've had to stop being mutuals with somebody because they are very much in the same mindset as Nick Merckx, and Nick Merckx is an uneducated fool. That's not even speaking about what he's said. Just in general, he is an uneducated idiot. Like, he's got zero education. And so for him to talk about it is just as stupid as for somebody who failed high school biology to talk about how viruses spread or what masks can or can't do. If you're not educated in it, you don't have a foot to stand on. And so for me, it's just, you're not you, but the whole argument is turning something into something it's not. And no matter how well-intentioned your stance is, bigoted ideology is still bigoted ideology, and people deserve to live, and people deserve to have a decent life. And so I won't support somebody who doesn't think that that's allowed. That's just kind of where I am for it. Depressive Coffee Cup, hello, how's it going? Wait, what mess? No, Depressive Coffee Cup, I'm not going through anything. I'm not going through anything, I don't know. I think you came in mid-conversation. I want to clarify, I'm not going through anything. Depressive Coffee Cup. I can't see the alert. I think it said Tristan. Yeah, Tristan Jones, thank you so much for the sub, I appreciate that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're doing well. In the community, or rather living under a rock as a bi feels wrong. Yes, Merle, I agree. Yes, the bare minimum being praised is stupid, but that's what businesses do, right? They try to take like the bare minimum and be like, look what we're doing. It's a good thing. But it's like, no, it's the bare minimum. But Depressive Coffee Cup, I just saw your first message. I think that's the whole thing. That's the crux of it, right? By acting what Nick Merckx is doing. For those who can't see the message, they were saying that they're living under a rock as a bi person, and that they have friends who feel wrong for being trans, and they feel like their body is gross and whatever. Now, with trans, it's a bit deeper because feeling like your body's gross is kind of one of the issues that a lot of the trans community faces anyway. But like feeling like something is wrong with you, that's kind of what Nick Merckx's standpoint kind of contributes to, right? By telling kids that it's something that you need to teach them about because nobody else should be allowed to, because it's such a deep topic. You're contributing to there is something wrong with these people, and we need to, tread lightly when we talk about it, instead of just talking about them the way that you talk about, like, there are mommies and daddies and they get married. There are also daddies and daddies and they get married. There are mommies and mummies that get married. Sometimes there are boys that are born boys, but they're actually girls. And that's all kids need to know, right? And then if kids are brought up that way, just realizing that it's no big deal, then there's not really going to be a reason to feel like there's something wrong with you. Right? And there's not going to be a need to like hide it. Because look where we are now. There's a lot of racism. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of racism still out there. But look at where we are now. If we would have gone back 100 years ago, being black or Latino or Asian was seen as less than human. Again, there's still people that think that. But now, having, a Latino in your class, having a black kid in your class, having an Asian kid in your class is no longer something that is to be something to protect your kids from. It's no longer something that you need to explain to your kids. It just is. And so, although there is still racism out there and there are still horrible people that will make you feel bad about being a different race, I didn't think about it until I was much older. There were things about my race that were still issues that I dealt with on a regular basis that other people made me feel. You know, people making fun of my name, people making fun of my food, whatever. But kids are kids. Kids are jerks. But I never thought about being different, right? I never felt different. And I actually didn't feel like genuinely different until I actually went to theater school. Theater school was the first time I felt different. That was the first time I felt like I didn't belong. And that was, although I think it was wrong, it was done on purpose because as an actor, you have to sell yourself, right? Like you have to sell what you have. And one of the things I have is I'm Latino. And so like that was one of the big things that they were like, you need to push this because this is going to differentiate you from all the other actors auditioning. That was the first time I ever felt different. And so like it should be the same way for the LGBTQIA plus community. It should be something that we talk about just as casually as saying that somebody comes from a different country than you and they grew up in a different place or they have different food or music from you. It's just another variant that people have, just like there are blue-haired people and blue-eyed people and, you know, redheads, and they're just a variance of something that's around. And by acting like teaching your kids about it is this like holy grail that nobody should be allowed to do, you're inherently acting like those people are different and need to be addressed in a specific way because kids need to be protected from their existence, which is stupid. It did. Depressive coffee. I think I've been considering this quite a bit the last little while. Give me freaking Eyes of Ender or Ender Pearls. I think there was always the risk. Oh, we've got 9. Okay, we're good. We're good. There was always not the risk. The world was always kind of heading this way because if you've been online for a while and you're perpetually online, you will see that this type of mentality is very common on the internet. Right? Like you see this kind of, I know more than everybody, even though I have zero education and I'm allowed to be bigoted and you telling me not to be bigoted is hateful. That kind of mentality has been around since the internet's been around, really. But where COVID really affected it was, I still don't see a bastion. This is kind of stressful. Is that people who normally wouldn't have been perpetually online were forced to be perpetually online because we were all locked down, because the whole world came to a standstill and it all happened at once. And so people that were hateful, but like behind closed doors and were kind of like, okay, I know I have to, you know, be accepting, even though I still feel this way, were given a place where they could talk about it openly. And then because so many people were kind of forced to live online temporarily, it almost bolstered that hateful rhetoric to a level that it hasn't been in a really long time. And now it's spilled over into the real world. And it's really sad. It's really, really sad. We've taken a lot of steps backwards. A lot of steps backwards. Yeah, the dark. And if you did live, you would have been completely like blamed for it all, right? Like one of the things that a lot of I use this to explain it to my mom because she's a nurse, but she's old school in some mentalities. Like I've talked to her about autism, but she just doesn't get it. Is old people back even when she was younger, they would just say, oh, they're talking like an old person. But like being senile, that was a really common thing to hear, you know? Oh, grandpa's gone senile. And that was just the explanation for when like an old person went crazy. Like that's what it was. An old person went crazy, and old people go crazy when they get old enough. And now we know, no, there's a thing called dementia, and there are different types of dementia that cause different things, and it's completely out of their control. And it can affect anybody. And now we know that it could affect people as young, well, it could affect children. There's a type of dementia that affects kids. But like, we know that there are people in their 40s and 50s that get hit with dementia. And had they have been alive 100 years ago, and I'm sure there were other people 100 years ago that were going through it, they would have just been seen as having lost their mind. And they would have been homeless, living on the street, and being treated as if they were problems. I mean, we still kind of treat people that are homeless with mental issues that way anyway, but that would have been just them making the choice to be nuts, when in reality it was completely out of their control and they physically could not do it. And so like times move forward, and disabilities are kind of the same way, right? Before, when somebody was disabled, it was very much seen as a them problem, and now it's, well, there's still people that think this way, but now it's much more a society problem, because if somebody with a disability is not contributing in the sense of like paying for taxes and helping move society forward by doing a job or whatever, they're almost like a lost energy source, I guess. So as a society, it benefits all of us to help somebody with a disability be able to lead a normal life, because they'll also contribute to society. And just because, you know, they have depression, or just because they're in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean that they one, don't deserve to have some kind of self-worth, and two, it doesn't mean that they can't benefit society by doing a job just because we have to, you know, change the way it's done a little bit because they can't do it the way that everybody else can. So it's very much, we've learned it's very much a benefit to all of society. Wow, that is loud in my ears. It's very much a benefit. Ouch, I knew it. It's very much a benefit to all of society to include people with disabilities in the workforce and in regular society, because it just makes society better. And so it's kind of the same situation with like different races. It's the same situation with people of the LGBT, any like fringe minority type of community that is excluded. They're a benefit to the society if you include them and find ways to work with them. Obviously that excludes fringe minorities that are hateful. But overall, including people is a benefit to all of society. It's so fitting. It's getting so deep, it's fitting. Hello, Robo Wolf. Nice to see you. Anyways, that was my tangent. I never use the tag like safe space or anything in my stream, and not because I'm not against, or not because I'm against it or anything like that. It's just I know I can't promise a safe space. And I don't want to promise something that I can't do. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? That's like, I don't call myself an ally to any group, not because I don't, how do I make this make sense? It's not because I wouldn't say that I'm, you know, against a group, or that I'm not an ally in the sense of like I'm not going to support a group. I'm talking about any group. It's more that I don't want to make that promise because I know I'm going to screw up eventually. I know I'm going to say something eventually that is unacceptable or you know, potentially bigoted, and not intentionally. But if I sit around patting myself on the back going, you know, I provide safe spaces and I'm an ally, then when I screw up, it's that much more damaging. Whereas like, if I'm not promising it because I know I'm going to screw up, at least I know that I'm going to screw up. Like I'm willing to admit that I'm still learning and that there are still things that I'm going to screw up big time. That being said, this is not a safe space 100% for any kind of bigoted or hateful behavior. Simple as that. Luis, hello, nice to see you. That's all for now. I appreciate that. It's hard, and with all of it being said, I don't want people to think that if you have, you know, bigoted thoughts, if you have bigoted beliefs, if you say or do something bigoted, it's not to say that you're automatically an evil person. Where it becomes oh, that was a big thing. That was a big thing that really bothered me about the guy who started Kick. This was the big thing that like really irked me, that made me go, no, I'm not going to work on Kick anymore. Is he said that anybody who gets upset at everything that happened with Nick Merckx, it's their responsibility to teach him instead of getting angry, which is like the most privileged and most egotistical, arrogant. I've never faced any kind of struggle in my life style of mentality ever, because for him, sure, he looks at it as Nick Merckx said something stupid and people should like try to teach him. He doesn't realize that I spend my whole life correcting people on how to say my name. That I spend my whole life correcting people on how something that they just said is racist towards me. I spent my whole life trying to defend my existence. I spent my whole life when I would date somebody having their parents look down on me because I wasn't white. I spent my whole life doing that. And we live in a world now where the internet is really, really, really accessible. And videos that educate are everywhere. So if I get upset about somebody being a bigot or hateful, it's not my responsibility to teach them. And blaming somebody for not wanting to teach a bigot is the stupidest standpoint. It's the stupidest standpoint. And so that bothered me. That's where I was like, no, I'm not going to work with this person. Like, I'm not going to work with this platform because I don't want to support somebody who thinks that it's my responsibility to teach somebody and that I'm the bad guy for not wanting to teach them when I spend my whole goddamn life teaching people around me all day, every day. So no. Anyways, that was what really bothered me, as you can tell. That was what really just, that was enough for me. Hello, Ricky. Nice to see you. Welcome. Just today, Luis. I was trying it and then that happened and I was like, no, I'm done. I'm not going to support this clown. Seeing the ABCs. Which one though? There's so many versions. There's so many versions now. But yeah, it's but what I was saying, you know, if you have a bigoted thought, if you have, you know, if you say something bigoted or stupid, it doesn't mean you're automatically a bad person. Where you become a bad person is when somebody tries to educate you and you still double down and refuse to listen to anybody else's perspective on it. I also understand that it's very hard to not see things in a negative way when you are surrounded by people who think the way that you do, or that you have never really been exposed to other types, right? It's kind of one of the arguments that they have a lot, especially during the presidential thing, that you know, a lot of rural towns tend to vote one way and bigger cities tend to vote a different way. And the main reason is that bigger cities are a much more mixed type of society. You know what I mean? Like right now I live in a rural area. It's a tourist city, but I live like right at the edge. Like honestly, 1 block over is all farmland. I'm surrounded by white people. And all of my neighbors, there's a Filipino couple that lives next to us. I don't think there are any black people on my street. I think I'm the only Latino on my street. The owner of this house is Asian, but I'm the only one that lives here. And we had a couple of Indian guys that lived upstairs before. But it's all white people. And so it's very hard to understand other cultures when you don't see them, right? So the only people you're going to learn from are the people around you. A good analogy would be like little kids when they try to talk about sex. And they all come up with really stupid concepts of what sex is. I remember when I was a kid, this is how like naive we were. Now, the internet didn't exist when I was a kid, right? And so we didn't have the internet to teach us all the dirty, lewd things that adults do. Kids nowadays, I'm sure, know a lot more than we did as kids. But like for us, if you, oh crap, I just spilt it all over my mouse. Oh, I may have just wrecked both my mouses. Crap, give me a second here. Give me a second. I just spilt my coffee all over my table and it went like right on my mouse. crap. Yeah, some people have never met somebody different than them, right? On top of that, what I was getting at, when I was a kid, what I was saying when I spilt my coffee, when I was a kid, we used to have different things that were dirty that only adults should be doing, but we were doing them as kids. And one of them was to like touch fingers together. That was, that's like making out. Like that was that level. But if you wanted to talk about like doing it when we were kids, obviously we didn't know what it actually was. But we used to do this thing. My neighborhood had this thing where like, if you loved somebody, if your girlfriend, now we were like 8, 9 years old, right? If you loved somebody, if you loved your girlfriend, you would butt wash. Well, butt washing was that you would rub your butts together. And it wasn't like us, you know how like little kids are like, ew. No, it was like you butt wash if you love somebody. And if you were really serious, you'd pull your pants down and butt wash and rub your butts together that way. Like it was, it's what kids shouldn't be doing, but as kids, it wasn't like, it's not like they're having sex, right? Like it's not that. But who's teaching them these things? We're teaching each other. So we have this stupid concept, right? That makes zero sense. You know, and it's the same thing with like racism and bigotry for people who eventually learn and aren't like are willing to learn, you know, are willing to at least listen. If you have those thoughts, you're not a bad person inherently. Those thoughts are bad, but you're not a bad person, because if you're surrounded by a bunch of white people and you grew up surrounded by a bunch of white people, how are you supposed to really know what it's like to be a black person or Latino or to see immigrants on a regular basis, right? It's understandable if you grow up thinking that Asian people eat animals that we don't normally eat, or that Latinos only work as gardeners, because that's all you see around you, right? Like you see the stereotypes on television, you see the stereotypes, you know, in movies, and then you have the people around you who have never seen them in real life either. So they're going to believe those are real too. Where the important layer lies is being able to go, oh, okay, I'm an idiot. I have these terrible thoughts, or I have these terrible beliefs or feelings, but I have to work on making them better, even though I'm still gonna, you know, struggle sometimes, because I've been there. When I was like, I grew up Latino, and now it's different. But you know, my parents came here in the late 80s, and back then, before the internet. Okay, it seems like the mouse is still working. I hope I didn't wreck it. I think I got most of it. I don't know. We'll find out. If it's wrecked, it's wrecked. This is the one that hurts me to wreck if I wrecked it. My parents came here in the 80s, right? So they, and back then without the internet, there was a bigger gap between societies. And so like things that became popular in El Salvador were things that were popular here in like the 70s. Like they were about 10 years behind with everything. I remember I went back in the early 2000s and they were listening to songs that were like 6 years old, thinking like they were the latest and greatest, because the internet wasn't super common back then. And so there's beliefs that take a lot longer. There were beliefs that took a lot longer to get there than they did here. Now with the internet, things are a lot different. But like homophobic mindsets were far more prevalent back then in my culture. They're still somewhat prevalent because the Latino culture tends to have much more of a machismo standpoint. But like I grew up with certain homophobic beliefs and ideas and stuff because that's what I was surrounded by, because I was living with a bunch of, like I grew up around a bunch of people who were completely invested in the whole machismo thing and didn't know anybody that was part of that community and had certain ideas of what it was to be part of that community. I didn't start learning otherwise until I was, you know, almost done high school. And I didn't really start to like grasp how hurtful and hateful my mindset was until I was in college. when I was in theater school, when I started doing musicals and I started to actually be exposed to the community a lot more on a regular basis, not just like through randomly meeting somebody on the street or through like, you know, my girlfriend has a friend who's gay. But once I started getting exposed to the community hands-on on a regular basis, my mentality started to change. I'm not proud that I thought that way, but I did, right? And I also can't deny that that was there. And I had to work on changing that. And there are still parts of the community that I don't understand. And I don't mean that in a, you know, that shouldn't be allowed. I just mean like, I don't really grasp what it means. I get like the very topical explanation of it. But I'm not the one that lives that way. I'm not the one that has to, you know, struggle with society understanding. I'm one of the outsiders, so it's not my responsibility to, or it's not my, like, I don't have to feel, like, if I don't get it, it's not going to affect me in a negative way by not being able to, like, dictate what it is to be, like, gender fluid or whatever. I understand the most topical point of it. Where it is my responsibility is to make sure that I'm not going to perpetuate some kind of hateful stigma with it, or that I'm going to judge somebody based on it. I don't get it, but I don't have to, right? It's just like I just have to accept that that's part of life and that people want to live that way, and I don't really care that they live that way. It's kind of like being an accountant. I have a friend who's an accountant. He might even be watching right now. And I don't get how anybody would want to be an accountant. I don't get it. But I'm not an accountant, so I don't have to get why somebody would be an accountant, right? I know it's a really, really, really loose comparison, but that's the best I can come up with right now. So the whole point being that if you do have some kind of negative or bigoted thought, it doesn't... Oh, my scroll wheel broke. My scroll wheel died. No! That's really heartbreaking. I wrecked my mouse. RIP mouse. Ah, crap. There he is, Tyler. There you are. It was you. It was you. How are you doing, man? How are you doing? Oh no! Stop attacking me! Stop attacking me! Yeah, and that's a big part of it, right? Is the lack of diversity, right? China's the same way. El Salvador's the same way, right? Like where I'm from, El Salvador is exactly like that. There's a lot of racist and bigoted beliefs out there. There's a lot of like stupid, hateful things that are said and done, but people aren't doing them in the sense of like they're intentionally trying to act superior. It's just that's kind of how they were, like that's what they were surrounded by. Okay, this is my other mouse. This is the other one, but this one only got coffee at the bottom, so it should be okay. Better than my mouse? Yeah, I'm kind of heartbroken. Now, so I got this for free from Rocket. It's the Rocket Burst Air, I think is what it's called. I can't even see the name. They wrote it in white, and it's, I'm old. They wrote it in white. The Rocket Burst Pro Air. I remembered that the name was really, like, terrible. It's a gaming mouse. It's really, really light. It's super sensitive for like the DPI and stuff. The battery lasts forever on this thing. Like it just does not stop. I think I charge this thing maybe once a month, roughly. I got it for free. It's like $140 mouse, if I recall. Or did they might have sent me the $80 one and they were gonna send me the $120 or $140 one after, but then we just didn't continue with the partnership. But anyways, it's a really nice mouse. But I spilt, it was like a quarter of my mug was left, maybe more, of my coffee, and I spilt it, and it landed right on the mouse, like all over the mouse. So That is not... That there we go. That's what it was. It was content. It was... I did it to test to see if the mouse was waterproof. It is not waterproof. Rocket Burst, send me another one. I would love it. Really annoying. Really frustrating that I did that because I'm an idiot. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. They're completely chipped. They're falling apart, and it's because I'm lazy. Because I have to like remove the nail polish and then put it back on, and I'm lazy. So usually what ends up happening is I paint them, and then it completely chips off, and then they go clean, and then I forget to repaint them. So then I go like a month with no nail polish, and then I remember, and then I repolish them. Get out of here. We've been wandering around for a while and no bastions. This is frustrating. Although I haven't really gone anywhere. I've been like walking in circles because there's lava frickin' everywhere. Get out of here. It's nice. It's a really nice mouse. It doesn't have any of the crazy stuff. Like this is the mouse I use for everything, which is a Red Dragon. I think this is the M90 or something. M913. The M913. It's an MMO mouse, so I really like this mouse because it's a bit bigger. I have hand problems. I have trigger finger. Basically, my tendons swell up in my hands, and so this hand more than anything. This one is okay, but if I make a fist, it actually locks. The tendons almost snap in place. I don't know if you all remember. For you younger folk, you may have seen them like in like the nostalgia style videos. They had these things called snap bracelets, which were like, they're basically tape measures, but they were like little bracelets and you could snap them and they would snap and wrap around your hand or arm. My tendons basically do that. And so I have to like snap them open, and sometimes they lock and I can't snap them open. And so the bigger mouse is more comfortable for me, but it has all the buttons. It's got 1 through 10 on the side, 1 through 12 on the side. So it allows me to have like easy, I can switch weapons without having to, you know, reach over to my keyboard or anything. I'm also using a Razer Tartarus, which doesn't have a 1 through 3. So I have to always reach out to my keyboard, but I can use my mouse for it. The downside to the one I'm using is that it's fully wireless, and so it has a built-in battery, and the battery only lasts me like 5 days before it's dead. So it's really frustrating because it'll just die midway through gameplay and I constantly have to charge the thing. So I started using the burst because it lasted forever and I didn't have to worry about having to charge it all the time. But clearly I just broke it, so not fun. That's all for now. Thank you for popping in. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you hanging out. I do have a safety on my fingers. Because I'm dangerous. I'm dangerous. If these fingers were set free, there'd be so many people lusting for me. The skills that these fingers possess. Oh yeah, the Xbox was doing a secondary showcase, right? Let us know if they introduce any new games or if they're just expanding on the ones that they already talked about. Crap. Gotta keep those guns in check. Heck yeah. You have massive hands. My hands aren't very big. They've gotten bigger now. I actually had pretty delicate hands. And I was okay with that. It was kind of rough because a lot of women that I would like meet and stuff, one of the big things that they liked were like big, massive, callousy hands because they like men who work with their hands. And I was in healthcare. So like I worked with my hands, but a big part of working with my hands was making sure that like I kept them moisturized, and I was working with moisturizers, so they were always nice and soft. I never had calluses. And so I actually used to wear medium-sized rubber gloves. Like that was not abnormal for me. Medium was what I always wore. But then I started working with my hands in a rougher sense, and I started working as a subcontractor, and now I wear large gloves, so my hands have gotten bigger. But they're not massive. They're not very big in comparison to like really, really big hands. So the downside is, you know, if I get to punch you, it's not a big hand. But the upside is I can use smaller mice and it's not a big deal. But yeah, for me, it was more the MMO functionality of this mouse. I really like the MMO features. Actually, I've taken Alana's computer, and she has a second mouse. She has her own mouse. It's also an MMO, but hers isn't wireless. I'm gonna grab that mouse. She's not gonna use it anyway. I'm gonna grab that mouse. Look, we found it. I don't think this is the one that I died at either. I think this is a different one. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I do remember you, Faulty Clips. Like I said, I don't really play with other people. If I play with anybody, it's like friends that I actually know, like in real life and stuff. Or like friends that I've known for years through streaming. I don't really do much. Like I said, I'm thinking if I start making money as a content creator, I'm definitely leaning towards making like a realm or something for everybody to be able to play on. I have to figure out how to do that because apparently... Whoa! You jerk! You jerk! I wasn't ready for you. But it might still be a little while before we play together. What's your hobbies? That's cool, man. That's cool. I get it. I'm an immigrant. You dummy. I'm an immigrant. I get it. Bad grammar, totally part of my upbringing. I get it. I used to have a lot of hobbies. I used to be the kind of person that was busy all the time. Like, all the time. But over the last few years, I've kind of fallen out of doing anything. Mainly because I had a schedule at work that didn't really allow much time for hobbies. I used to commute about an hour to work every day, and I worked out in the community, so I was out all day long. So I kind of fell out of doing hobbies. So right now, my actual hobbies are basically TikTok and streaming. That's pretty much it. But now that my life's kind of going back to what it used to be, I used to do musicals. You know, I studied theater, and so like I used to act. I had a band for a really long time. So I used to sing a lot. That was a really big thing for me. Music was huge. We're actually doing our, it probably is going to be our goodbye performance. My dad was the musical one in our family, and he started the band, and, get out of here, wrong thing, oh god. Get out of here. And so he was always the one that kind of like got us the contracts. He was the one that, you know, he was the owner of the band. It was his band. But he passed away about a month ago. And so the likeliness of the band continuing is very, very low. Ooh, soul speed. That's what I wanted the whole time. I couldn't find one. I got it now. Yes. Okay, cool. And so we're having his funeral in about a month. And, oh crap, no, get out of here, get out of here. And, as kind of like a tribute to my dad, as like a farewell to my dad, we're performing, what's left of the band. My dad passed away, and our conga player passed away, a couple years before COVID. Actually, his son was, if you're Canadian at all, you may have seen him all over the news. He was also on the cover of People magazine, because he passed away. He was one of the first celebrities to pass away from COVID. His dad was in my band. So we're gonna perform as like a farewell to my dad, as a tribute to my dad. But that was one of my hobbies, was music. I'm actually probably gonna have to do a stream where I'm recording some of the music, because without my dad, we're gonna sing all his songs. We're not singing the songs we normally did. We're doing all the songs my dad used to sing. And so without my dad being able to physically play the instruments he played, I'm gonna have to pre-record some of the music to give us the ability to perform the songs. So I'm probably gonna have to do that on stream, where like I pull out my keyboard and pre-record some of the songs so I can get them prepped for the farewell funeral thing. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet thing. Obviously, my dad dying is the bitter part. the sweet part of it is like the band was my dad's like pride, but it was like the one thing that I did with my dad. My dad and I didn't have a lot in common. My dad was he was an alcoholic, and I don't drink. My dad very much is a social butterfly. He was friends with everybody, and anybody who knew my dad, to him, they were his best friend. I am like super antisocial. People don't really like me. And so like him and I were very different. We were also very similar because we both had very short tempers. So my dad would like frustrate me and we would argue, because we both had very short tempers. So it was an interesting relationship we had. But anyways, the band was his, but it was like the one thing that I knew that my dad and I did together all the time. And so we performed together, we spent a lot of time together with it, we traveled because of it. And when the band stopped, the band basically stopped because my sister, oh crap. I'm dead. Oh god, did I survive that? Oh, I survived it. Oh, that was so close. My sister gave birth to my niece, and my niece passed away. So emotionally, and her husband was in the band with us. So it was my sister, my brother-in-law, my brother, my dad, myself, and 2 family friends. And so when my niece passed away, we all kind of stepped back because obviously my sister and her husband weren't going to perform for a while. And so we kind of stepped back and didn't really do much. In that time, my brother was having his kids and everything, so he was really busy, so it was harder for us to perform. Then we performed for a little bit, and then our conga player got cancer, and so then he passed away, so that also slowed us down even more, and then it just kind of became something that we couldn't really do. So things kind of got put on the back burner for the band, but I always held on to the hope that we would perform again. And then about 4 years ago, my dad had a stroke, which didn't leave him paralyzed, but he couldn't feel anything on his left side. So he could move his hands and arm and everything, but he couldn't feel it. So because he couldn't feel it, he obviously couldn't play the bass anymore. And he would fall because he couldn't tell like if he was wearing a shoe or not. He couldn't tell if he was lifting his foot over like a bump or anything, so he would just fall down. So performing just kind of went out the window. But I always had the hope that maybe like my brother-in-law and myself could get back together and like maybe find a couple of other musicians and go back to touring. And so there was always kind of that hope. My brother-in-law had said he didn't want to perform. He was part of like a really, really famous band back home. Like my biggest crowd was about 5,000 people, which is pretty big when you, but that was nothing compared to what my brother-in-law did. Like my brother-in-law played for like 15,000 people. Like he did a stadium, he went on tour and they had a stadium full of people for him to perform in. He did quite a bit. And so he kind of lived his dream as a musician, and he has no interest in it anymore. So it was pretty much dead in the water. But I always held hope because it was such a big deal for me. So now that my dad's gone, now it's definitely like that's it for sure, because without my dad, we don't really have a connection to the Latino community, so we don't have any way to get work. And so it's bittersweet because we finally get to perform again, but it's for my dad's funeral and it's the last performance. So it's kind of that bittersweet feeling for me. But it was a really good time performing in the band. We had a really good time performing together. I'm very proud of everything that we did together. It just sucks that it's over. That kind of sucks. But it was fun. It was really fun. Yes, Tyler. I know. This is the juxtaposition, I guess, of who I am. I am very, very, very good at quick bursts of being social. It was my job, right? Like I had to get very good at talking to people for short bursts because I did healthcare, right? And this is kind of how I try to describe it to people. I would walk into somebody's house, right, as a complete and utter stranger, and my job was to walk into their house and make them get naked in front of me, and I would shower them and take care of them. Something that people have a hard time with their own family members doing it, let alone some strange person that just walked in off the street 20 minutes ago. And that was my job. So it was a very, very big benefit to me to make people comfortable very, very quickly, so I could, do my job without them feeling bad, because for me, it was just a job. Like, it wasn't like I was thinking about it like seeing somebody naked. I was thinking about it as a job. But I needed to make them comfortable while doing it. So I got very, very good at short bursts of socializing and like chatting and, having conversation and stuff. There's also the factor that I live in a house with somebody who can't stand me. Who can't even spend more than 5 minutes having a conversation with me. So I can spend days without talking to another adult at all. Like that I don't even say more than 3 words to an adult. So when I see another adult, it's very hard for me not to start talking and blabbing on because I haven't talked to another adult in days at times. So that's why I'm so good in short bursts. So many people say the same thing. They're like, but you were so talkative and you seem so casual. And it's like, yeah, 'cause it's part of my job and I'm also alone all day long. So it's kind of the only chance I get to talk to somebody else. Oh, Hada, I'm so sorry. So sorry to hear that. That was me last year, not this birthday that passed by. This year, my daughter wished me a happy birthday, and my dad called me to say happy birthday this year. My dad had a really bad habit of forgetting all of our birthdays, and he would remember like the next day, or if my mom told him. But he called me early. He usually, if he remembered to call me, it was always at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, because he didn't want to wake me up, even though we all knew it was because he forgot and he just remembered at that time. But he remembered and he called me early that last year. But that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. But this is old tradition on the channel. I haven't done this in a while, but old tradition on the channel. me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hata. Happy birthday to you. And many more. With headphones and watch streams, yeah, that's pretty much the benefit for my job too, is I get to put my headphones on and just like chill out by myself. So I get to not have to socialize too much. Mind you, I used to be a big social butterfly, but it wasn't so much that I screwed up because I built a wall around me and I don't know where I built the wall. Okay, over here, I think. But it wasn't so much that I wanted to socialize. It was more the sense of I wanted to just feel accepted. I wanted to feel normal, right? Being an immigrant kid can be really rough sometimes. Canada, thankfully, is much more of a melting pot, I guess. There's a different phrase that we use in Canada. I can't remember what it is right now, but we're much more diversified and we're much more exposed to people from different places. So there's definitely, Canada has that. So I'm very lucky that I was in Canada. Mind you, Canada doesn't have as big of a Latino community as the States does. Like, I was talking to one of my friends, and she was talking about going to eat somewhere, and she had mentioned a type of drink. For Americans, I know you would probably know it, horchata. For me, horchata is a huge treat because we don't have a huge Latino community, you can never find it here. And so her mind was blown that I can't get horchata in Canada. She just couldn't comprehend, like she couldn't grasp the fact that we don't have those kind of drinks here. But our Latino community is far, far smaller than what it is in the States. Upside is we have far more variety in communities of size, because you're going to find people from all over the world in the States, but you might find like 2 or 3 people from a very like obscure country. Whereas here, you're going to find a whole community of them. So at least, being an immigrant, it wasn't like I was the only immigrant, but I still felt out of place, right? Like in my elementary school, there was me and one other girl who were Latino. There was one black person, there was one Vietnamese person, and then there was a bunch of like Portuguese, Italian, and like an amalgamation of different white countries. Like there was a girl who was Polish, there was a girl who was English. You know, there was a variety. But I still felt kind of out of place. Now I know it was because I was masking and, you know, being on the spectrum and all that. But at the time I thought it was because I was an immigrant. So I tried really, really hard to fit in. I tried really, really hard to be liked and accepted, and people still didn't like me. And people still had a problem with me. And I thought it was just because I was unlikable. Now I know that that's not the case. But I've gotten to an age now, what I'm getting at, this isn't like a pity, like, oh, I feel bad for you because no one likes me. I'm fine with people not liking me. I get it now. But I've gotten to an age now. The reason that I'm so much less social than I was before is back then I wanted that acceptance. Now I know that it's kind of out of my control. But I'm just tired of masking. I'm tired of having to pretend to be somebody that I'm not just for people to like me. When in the end, I still don't understand people, and I put this down here a long time ago. Nothing that I need. I'll take this. This is always good to have. Nothing that I do is going to make people accept me anymore. And people being people will turn their back on me at the drop of a hat with no ifs, ands, or buts. And so if I'm, you know, busting my back to be quote unquote normal and to be likable, and then they're just going to turn around and, you know, turn their back on me without any warning, why would I bother going through all that trouble? So instead, I'm just going to be myself for the most part. I still mask to a fairly high degree. I'm still fighting it. But like, at least if you don't like me, I didn't put extra effort for nothing. Do you know what I mean? At least if you don't like me, you don't like me for me, and I didn't have to like mask versus masking the whole time. Then you really like me, and then I feel like we're great friends, and then I unmask, and then I realize you never liked me. You were just kind of, you liked the mask. So I've become way less social because I'm just tired of masking. Really, that's all it is. Okay. Hyperactive energy always drains me. They're always sad. How old are you, Hyper? How old are you? A mask and a cape. A mask and a cape, yes. I'm growing out my mustache, so I have something to like twirl. Weewin, hello, welcome. Weewin. How dare you let Twitch betray you that way? How are you, Weewin? How are you? 17? Okay. You're 18. Nice. Raxid, hello, welcome. Raxid, I don't know. I was talking and I wasn't looking at chat, so I didn't see what part you asked me. I did what now? I didn't see that part. Yeah, well, the thing with streaming, and this is, it's hard to really word it in a way that doesn't sound bad. Because it can very easily be misconstrued as being a liar. But like, for the most part, streaming is a performance, right? I think that's one of the things that a lot of, not small streamers, but like streamers who are new to the game, who can't grow, that's one of the things that they tend to miss, is that streaming is a performance. It's not, this isn't who I am in real life. This isn't how I am in real life. I am very, very, very talkative. But like once you really, really get to know me and I let my mask down, I'm very quiet. Like very, very quiet. I'm also, and then this definitely leaks into my content, but I'm also very opinionated. And I think that has to do more with like the spectrum part of it is I can't see it. Angel, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Welcome. I'm opinionated, but I have a very hard time shifting sometimes. because like I have empathy, but for me sometimes things are very clear cut, like it's a black and white answer, and I can't see it from a different perspective, which is human nature. But like here's an example of one that I still don't get to this day. I have this ex-girlfriend who I cared about a lot. Like I really cared about her a lot, and she cheated on me. She broke up with me, and it was not a good breakup. And so the problem is that her and I act in the same acting circles, so we see each other all the time. I can't say where I stand because I don't know, you know, like I don't know if I ever like fully got over her, or if I'm just like bitter, or if I just have a hard time with like the ego bruise, although I've been cheated on a lot. But anyways, the point is that I'm not friends with her. Her and I'll be very, very cordial when I see her. I'll be very polite when I see her. I'll do my job when I'm around her. You know, like we did Rocky Horror together, one of the last performances I ever did, and she was one of my minions in the show, and like one of the scenes, like her and I had to get like within millimeters of kissing each other, and like she was like rubbing my ass and I had to like grab her boob and stuff. And this is somebody that I don't like, and so I did it, and I was totally like into it because that's what I was supposed to do. So the thing that I don't get, and like I try and I just can't put myself in the different perspective. It just doesn't make sense to me because it's cut and dry to me. I did a different show with her in the past, and I was the photographer, and I did a bunch of headshots for everybody, and I posted them on my Facebook because at the time we were using Facebook to communicate, like the whole cast and everything. But her and I aren't friends on Facebook, and so she was really upset that I wouldn't add her to Facebook. And her reasoning was that it wasn't fair that she couldn't see her picture. Except I had posted the pictures in our group on Facebook, which she was a part of, just we weren't friends. And she was using that as an excuse to have me add her to Facebook, and the director pulled me aside and was like talking to me about how it was like affecting the performance because I wouldn't be friends with her on Facebook, which I thought was really stupid because I wasn't allowing her to affect the performance. And in that performance in particular, her and I exchanged a bunch of lines. Her and I had a bunch of like physical stuff that happened. And it didn't affect the show, but it was affecting like the behind the scenes thing. And it's like, but we're not friends. As long as the performance is going well, rehearsals are going well, then why do we have to be friends on Facebook? And like, for me, that doesn't make sense, right? Like if I don't like you, you don't like me, why do you want to be friends with me on Facebook, right? We're not friends. And so like that's where I kind of struggle as a person, is I'm opinionated that like I don't like you. You cheated on me. I don't want to be your friend. And I just can't bring myself out of that mindset because it's cut and dry. You treated me like crap. I'm not going to let you be in my life. Like that's it. So I'm fairly opinionated on stream, on TikToks and stuff. You have to be a lot more reserved in what you say, because sometimes I'm opinionated about stuff that crap, I don't know where my home base is. This isn't good. Sometimes I'm opinionated about things that I know there are different opinions about, and that I think are like there's a reason for that opinion, but I also think it's a stupid opinion, and so I'd rather just not talk about it because all it's going to lead to is just a bigger argument. So like, even though I get along with people on stream, I'm very different in real life, and I'm very different off stream. There's a certain level of masking that all streamers have to do, because in the end, a bunch of gamers are going to have a bunch of opinions. And with gaming, it's mostly passion based, right? So there's going to be a lot of opinions that no opinion is right. Like my opinion isn't right. Like I think Call of Duty is a trash game. That doesn't mean I'm right. That just means that's my opinion. But I'm also not going to like sit here and talk about how stupid I think Call of Duty is and how dumb I think it is for people to spend money on it, because it's not my money, and I'm not the one playing it. So it doesn't affect me. And I don't think any less of the person doing it, right? but it's gonna lead to arguments that aren't worth having, if that makes sense. Now, Call of Duty I bring up because that's something that I have been open about, because I do think that Activision... Is it Activision? It's Activision that makes Call of Duty, right? I don't know. I don't even follow it anymore. But the company that makes Call of Duty is playing gamers for suckers, and it really sucks because, like, we deserve better as a community. But outside of that, if people enjoy it, right? It's just a different opinion. But when you start getting into, like, passionate debates like that, it can become very... not toxic, but like it can just, it's not a fun debate if it becomes about something passionate. If it's fun, it's a little bit different, right? Like how we can discuss like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, right? That was something that I had a bit more fun being able to discuss, because I am of the opinion that it's a good Zelda game, but it's not the best Zelda game. But I get why people think it's the best Zelda game. But at least we're both on the same page. We're like, no, it's a good game. It's just the level of good is different between us. But if like you're gonna sit there, like I get a lot of people that'll comment on my videos where like they'll call me a Nintendo hater, but like I'm a huge fan of Nintendo, and the reason I'm calling them out is I don't want to see them go down that same path. And then the people defending Nintendo and like the scummy things they do, for me is like, that's more angering. That's not so much that's not a fun debate to have, because I don't want to see Nintendo go down the path that like Atari went down. I'm actually thinking about making a video about that in particular, Atari and what they've done. But yeah, so even though I am likable on stream, it's not exactly who I am in real life, and many people learn to dislike me after meeting me. There's a group of streamers that I became friends with when I first started, when I was a YouTube streamer specifically, and I met them, and they very quickly, most of them, not all of them, there's quite a few that I became really good friends with afterwards, but most of them very quickly learned that I'm not the person on stream, and they were not happy with me afterwards. But it's not like I was two-faced, right? Like, it wasn't like I'm sitting there going like, oh, I love Minecraft, guys, and I'm not gonna support bigotry on my channel, and then I turn around and like drop the N word or like, you know, the R slur or anything like that. It's not like that. It's just more like they meet me in real life and I'm super quiet, and I'm not like a witty comedic genius, and I'm not, you know, super knowledgeable about a bunch of stuff. And so suddenly they're just like, he's not who I thought he was. And then they just don't want to hang out with me because I'm not that same quirky energy that they expect, that they see in my videos. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Angel. Oh, you're Bob. Okay. I got you. But yeah, I'm learning though. I'm learning. Like I said, I was very social, and I've become very antisocial over the last few years. And I think a big part of that is just not being exposed to it, because I stopped acting. I stopped hanging out with people that weren't part of like my really deep inner circle. You know what I mean? Like basically my inner circle revolves around my brother, me, used to be Alana, and that was pretty much it. Like there's like one person, Girl Thulu, who I talk to online. Like online as in like on a fairly regular basis, probably the most regular basis, even though her and I don't talk like super often. But we're both really busy. We both have kind of the same mindset. That's why we get along so well. We have the same mindset where like we'll talk and then we'll just go weeks without saying anything to each other. I think about her all the time because, you know, she's my friend, but like I'll think about her at like really weird times. It'll be like 3 a.m. and I'm at work and I'll think about her, and it's like, well, I'm not going to message her at 3 a.m. Or like I'll think about her when I get up and I'm like, oh, I got to get ready for stream. Oh, I wonder what Girl Thulu's doing today. But I'm getting ready for stream, so I'm distracted, so I don't message her. So like, you know, we don't talk all the time, but she's probably one of the most stable people I talk to, like that I talk to most stably. Whereas like before, when I did my acting, I was always surrounded by a bunch of people. And I did a lot of like going out after the show and going after rehearsals and going to their houses and stuff. I don't do that anymore. So I think that plays into, oh, my skull thing fell off. That plays into my antisocial feelings. Because I just haven't socialized really. Oh, this isn't good. Oh, this isn't good. Oh, this isn't good. Run. Oh God. Oh, crap. Yeah, and I don't know whether I'm gonna call you Angel just because the name. I can look at it and it's easier for me to respond just by what I see on screen. I think a big part of it is the parasocial aspect of being a content creator. It's just inherent with streaming is people create a certain image of you and they have a very hard time seeing outside of that image. It's very, very, very common that I'll get a message in my, or not a message, a comment on one of my videos if I'm talking about something that's very different than what I normally cover, and it'll almost always be like, bro, just start doing the content you normally do. And so like it's really frustrating, but I get it because they see me in a specific light and it's not an accurate light. And the reason they see me in that specific light that's not accurate is they don't know me outside of what they've seen, right? Like I do a lot of like gaming fun fact videos and comedy sketches. And so I'll get people that will comment that they're upset that I don't do any more comedy stuff because that's what they originally saw from me. I'll get people that'll get upset when I do comedy stuff saying that I don't do enough fun facts because all they ever see is the fun fact stuff. But then if I do something like somebody does or says something hateful or like uneducated about streaming and I make a video about it, you know, kind of like a call out video, I'll get a lot of comments that'll be like, bro's so negative. Or like, okay, here's a really good example. I had a video that I made where I was some fun fact about video games. And I got a bunch of like comments making fun of me for the way I looked. And I replied. And then every other comment was people going like, all bro does is complain, like go back to the regular content you normally make. I made one video calling out somebody that was making fun of the way that I look, and you're acting like I abandoned all of my content and have only made this kind of content for the last like 6 months after years of making the same kind of content, when it was one video from like 3 that I posted today that were all about gaming. And so people get kind of this expectation of you. So even though people should accept who you are, it's part of the content creation realm is you're gonna run into people who have a very, very narrow view of how you are. And then as soon as they see how different you are in real life, they have that view kind of shattered and they dislike you. And it's not because you actually did anything that they dislike, it's because they have a very, very narrow view of who you are. And then when you don't fit that view, it's enough to make you unlikable because you're suddenly, it's not intentional, but it's almost like they see you as a liar, but it's themselves who fooled themselves into thinking you're a liar. You know what I mean? Because they've convinced themselves that you're a certain way and suddenly you're different. And it's like, well, they're obviously a liar because this is who they were. And now suddenly they're like this. And it's like, no, I've always been this person. I'm also that person. It's a bundle. But you've only seen that part of it. Right. So that's kind of where it gets really, really hard to kind of navigate. Yeah, Bitsy. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. Yeah, me too, Weewin. Me too. Yeah, Angel. It's common though. It's common. Hold on. What the hell is it? Wait, what did I get? Who got snubbed? Tyler, who got snubbed? Who did I snub? What did I say? Oh my God, what did I do? Yeah, change is definitely not natural. But yeah, the people making fun of the way you look, it's very common on TikTok. Because I always feel bad afterwards because I feel like people are going to interpret it as me bashing another generation. But Gen Z has 2 extremes. There's the extreme that is very like righteous, stand for like everybody being equal and no bullying, none of that stuff. And then there's the Gen Z on the opposite extreme, which is all about bullying everybody who's not Gen Z, bullying everybody who doesn't look and act like them, and bullying like mercilessly, and then mocking people for arguing with a child, as they call themselves, even though some of them are like 21 years old. So Gen Z grew up in a time where the internet was always around. And so there's part of the internet that's not so good is that there's a bravery online because you're not seeing people's reactions, right? Like you're not, if you meet somebody in real life, you're going to be a lot more reserved than you would be online because in real life, you could hurt their feelings. They could physically hurt you if you say the wrong thing. You could also, you know, you could be called out immediately for something that you said. Whereas like online, you have a second to kind of think of your response. And so you can be very, very witty online. And so you can be a complete jerk. And no matter what somebody says to you, you can take a second to kind of come up with an even better retort. Whereas in real life, you can't do that. In real life, you're on the spot. You can't be like, hold on, let me think about this. Yeah, well, your mom, right? Like you can't do that. So there's a higher risk in real life of looking like an idiot at the end of it. So people are a lot more reserved in real life. Online, on the other hand, you don't have to have that reservation. So Gen Z, having grown up with the internet being the way that it is now since their birth, they're even bolder in picking on people. And so they'll make fun of you for the way you look. On top of that, there's also this dumb idea that Gen Z has, and part of it is to blame, like millennials are to blame for part of it, is that millennials are old and they don't understand gaming, even though we were there throughout the whole like real booming concept or the real video game boom. We were there for that. We were part of that. We were the reason it happened, right? Like we supported the games. So a lot of us still game and actually understand gaming at a much deeper level than Gen Z does. There's this whole interesting conversation about how Gen Z doesn't know how to use computers. They're like boomers. They don't know how to use computers properly, versus like a millennial. Millennials can like really understand how computers work. Gen Z doesn't understand it as a deep concept like we do. And that has to do with just like the way computers have been built and like the ease of use and schools not teaching it anymore. So they don't have as deep of a grasp. And it's the same with gaming, right? Like a lot of Gen Z have this really weird concept that the only way to measure how well a game performs is the frame rate and the resolution. And that's it. So there's a lot of arguments about it. Like a lot of Gen Z argued, it's almost always Gen Z that's arguing with me about the Series S. When I say that the Series S is holding back the Series X, all of them come back with the games that run on PC like way lower spec. Why can't they run on the Series S? But they're only looking at resolution and frame rate. They don't consider, you know, the texture resolution. They don't consider the AA. They don't consider ray tracing. They don't consider SSAO. They don't consider any of those settings because to them that doesn't matter. But that actually affects how much the game, how well the game is going to perform and how good it's going to look. And so with the Series S, Xbox wants people who buy the Series S to not feel like they got snubbed. So they want to give it the best graphics possible. But the Series S isn't as capable as Microsoft would like it to be because they don't do first party games, right? They don't have anything that's like really optimized for the Series S. So it's not going to run as well as on the X. But they're not willing to concede and bring down the graphics. And so, of course, the Series S is holding back the X because they want them to look somewhat decent. So when you say, hey, I got a Series S, Microsoft can be like, and it looks almost as good as the X. You wouldn't be too happy if Microsoft is promising you next gen and then you get it and it looks as good as the PS4, right? But there's like this disconnect. So Gen Z thinks that millennials don't understand gaming. So when they see somebody like me talking about gaming, they see me as a target because I'm older and then I've got acne, so like attack my physical looks. And they see me as out of touch because I don't use their slang, but I'm also a millennial. So to them, I'm like this out of touch old guy. So I become a target. So even though it's not right and they probably wouldn't do it in real life, I'm a very easy target online. So it can be frustrating. It can be really frustrating. Yeah, Bitsy. And like and because computers were so new when we were kids, we had lessons on how computers worked because it was technology that wasn't really common. So they were teaching us how to use them because they knew we were going to need to use them in the future. But now computers have become so idiot proof, and I'm not saying Gen Z is a bunch of idiots. They've just become idiot proof because it's easier to sell something that's idiot proof versus selling something that's complicated. So they've become very idiot proof that like anybody with like 5 minutes can learn how to use a computer if they really set their mind to it. But to use a computer, you no longer have to know how to use like C language, you know, for like the command prompt or whatever. You don't need to understand how the file structures work. You don't need to understand how folders work and how they're put together in the file system. You don't have to understand any of that in-depth stuff. You just need to know the bare essentials on how to access things. Mind you, I'm not as well versed. I used to be, but I'm not as well versed anymore because I don't do it anymore. But it's the same with gaming, right? Like streaming has really had a bad effect on gaming because FPS. People go on and on and on about how they want the highest hertz on their monitor. And I see one of my friends talk about it all the time, that he's okay with 30 hertz if it's like an RPG and stuff, and I am too. But he'll get a lot of Gen Z commenting that he's an idiot because 240 hertz is like what you need. 120 is the minimum. If you get lower than that, then you're a noob and you have no idea and blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to play at 240 frames a second if I have all my graphics turned off. Why would I want to buy a 3090, 4090 and have all the graphics turned off so it looks like a PS2 game, even though it's running at 240, it looks like a PS2 game? I would much rather be playing at 30 frames and have ray tracing and have all the cool reflections and lighting and have all the like the highest textures, have it look like real life, even though it's at 30 frames a second, because graphics are a lot more than just the frame rate. Right? But it's the disconnect because Gen Z doesn't need to understand that. Like they didn't grow up when we did with like N64 graphics where you can really see a system struggling just to keep that up. So for us, we went from NES to SNES to N64. Like we saw the progression, and so we can understand where the details lie and we can see where the upgrades happen. And Gen Z doesn't, because they didn't have that exposure and they don't have to know that. Because look, let's be completely blunt here. If you look at the PS3 and on, the graphical upgrades are very minimal. Like there's nothing that's come out that makes you go, holy crap, outside of like lighting, really. Lighting and textures. This whole new NVIDIA stuff that they're working on with Unreal 5, that's the newest, like, wow, this is a big change. But before that, all of them looked very similar. There were very, very small changes. So it's very easy to kind of dismiss the settings and go for just frame rate and resolution because it's the most obvious changes that you can see. But the gaming has a lot of like nuanced changes that have happened that may not be super obvious to most people, but we see them. But it also leads to a lot of misunderstandings with hardware. Again, back to the Series S. People getting so mad that I'm saying that the Series S is underpowered and holding back the console. But it's not that the console is bad. It's just that Microsoft's approach to it is bad. Microsoft should have either continued to support the Series or the X, like the One X, or just allowed the Series S to not have, you know, ray tracing and all that stuff and just use it for what it's good at. You know, keep it at 720 to 1080p with decent graphics, but not promise that it's going to run on parity with the Series X with just slightly reduced graphics. Allow it to be quite low, but give people that entry way of saying, sell it as like a, hey, you can keep playing the next gen games, you just won't have all of the next gen bells and whistles, rather than it's just a slightly weaker version of next gen. So it's holding back the consoles. Allow devs to really tweak it so they can allow it to run well on the Series S. But without the understanding of how graphics really affect consoles, it's hard to send that message across and have people really grasp what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Bitsy, that's it. Seeing the revolution in VR is a very good example of how millennials saw graphic changes. If you look at VR from 5 years ago versus VR from now, night and day. There's been huge advancements. Huge advancements. We were there. Petridge Farm remembers. All the millennials remember. But that's not to say that that like Gen Z is a bunch of dumb people or anything like that. It's not. There's just a perception difference. Things that they look at based on where they came from. It's just like things that I look at based on where I grew up versus what Gen Z sees and feels nowadays, right? There's a much there's a much easier way to learn things, and Gen Z knows how to access that I don't. That I don't know how to access, that I don't know how to get to, that I don't know how to learn, because I grew up in a very different time than they did. So there are things that I'm completely stuck in my ways that I'm going to have a very, very hard time looking around. But it's a two-way street. There are things that Gen Z just completely misses out on. And a big part of it, a lot of them are growing up now. They're becoming adults and they're starting to kind of see it now. But a big part of it is just human nature. As teenagers, we all think that we're the smartest, that we're the best, that we're, we get it, and old people don't. And as old people, we're like, no, we learned from the mistakes that we made. Even though we thought we knew everything, we realize now we were idiots. It's an interesting time, really, to be alive. It's a really interesting time. And we're still playing Minecraft. Exactly. You are Hyper. You're pretty cool. No, and like I said, it's not. That's a very specific case, right? With technology, it's a very, very specific case. But there's a lot of stuff like Gen Z runs the world, right? Like if you really think about it, which I don't get why, but I don't get why as in like a business standard, because it's always been this way. Teenagers are the ones that everything is geared towards, right? Like all popular music is geared towards teenagers. All fashion choices are geared towards teenagers. All advertising is geared towards teenagers. And so they run the world. Gen Z runs the world right now. And there's a lot to learn from Gen Z because they have grown up in a world that is very different. Like I grew up in a time where being gay was still something that you hid and you had to come out of the closet. Whereas like Gen Z has been far more open to just like never having to go in the closet in the first place, right? And just being able to do what you want. There are things Gen Z does on TikTok that you would have been bullied relentlessly in my time had you had done that. Especially as a guy. There are things that guys do on TikTok that I watch and I'm like, if I did that when I was their age, oh my God, I would have been destroyed by all of my peers. Yet these guys are making millions of dollars doing exactly that. And I don't mean that, and I'm not saying that in a way of like, haha, making fun of them because they're such losers for doing it. I mean it in the sense of like, they're comfortable enough to do stuff like that because they're in a much more accepting generation than we were. They're exposed to a much more accepting society than we were. So it's very, there's a lot to learn from Gen Z for sure. For sure. You're part of that, what do they call them? Zennials? The in-betweens. The in-betweens. You have exposure to millennial experiences. You grew up with millennials close enough to you that you can share in some of the memories. But you also were young enough that you were able to understand Gen Z and get what Gen Z kind of went through and is going through. Yeah, you're in that like weird gray area. All right, Tyler. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hopefully we can do that soon. Keep in touch, man. Yeah, Hyper. And I think Gen Z overall tends to be a little bit more open to listening to adults. I think millennials have a different mindset than our parents did. Not that millennials are really Gen Z's parents. Gen X is more Gen Z's parents. Older millennials can kind of have Gen Z. Like my daughter's a Gen Z. She turns 18 in December. So she's like at the bottom end of Gen Z. But my parents, when they grew up, and this is something that Gen Z makes fun of millennials for, and I'm not much of using these kinds of terms and phrases and stuff, but like the whole thing that like millennials say adulting. Oh, I'm adulting now. The reason is, like I said, I don't use this term, but from everything that I've kind of gathered from the people around me, and I definitely do feel this, is growing up, there was almost an expectation set on us, like that we were taught that as you got older, eventually there'd be a moment where you'd like have a light switch, almost like how puberty happens, especially in female people, where like you have your period and like that switch is suddenly like, boom, you hit puberty. right? For guys, it's a little bit grayer, like your voice drops, or like you get pubes, like that. There you hit puberty. But there's like a very like defined moment that it happens, whereas like becoming an adult, it's not defined. It happens gradually, and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm an adult. But we were taught that it was gonna happen. Like when you're an adult, you have a full-time job, you have a family, you own a house, and you have like an adult mentality. You're grown up. You don't play video games. You don't watch cartoons. Like there's very much a defined moment of becoming an adult, and we never felt that. One, because society changed. Two, because boomers completely screwed up society, where like I can't own a house because I don't have rich family that could help me buy one. Despite having a ton of education, it didn't guarantee me a good job. Things are so ridiculously expensive that having anything requires a much higher standard than before. And boomers refuse to retire, working at 70 years old, whereas when they were young, most people were retired by 50. So they had an opportunity to move up. We don't have that. So a lot of millennials use adulting because it's almost like we're pretending, because this is stuff adults do, but we don't feel like adults because we don't have that ability to like do everything adults can do. We still feel like we're children in that aspect. So I think what I'm getting at is we had a divide between our parents and us because they had adult lifestyles and we had children lifestyles. Whereas millennials, we grew up and we never reached that feeling of being adults, most of us. There's a lot that still do because they had the right circumstances to have those moments of being able to own a house and all that stuff. But we still have a lot of connection to being kids, right? Like I play video games. My day, adults never played video games, right? You never knew of a 35-year-old when I was like 15, 16 years old playing video games, right? And if they did, it was like, oh, he's a loser. He still lives in his mom's basement type of thing. And so there was very much a divide, whereas like for millennials, we're everywhere, right? And there's a lot less of that divide. So I think that helps Gen Z listen to us a little bit more because being open to listening to us a little bit more because we're far less divided than us and our parents were, which is definitely a good thing because we are the beginning of, and Gen Z is now obviously going to be the full force of it, but we were the beginning of accepting who you are and not having to give that up in order to be an adult. Whereas we grew up being told like one day you're never going to play video games again. One day you're not going to play with toys again. I've got more toys now than I ever did as a kid. I play more video games now than I ever did as a kid. So I think that's definitely a benefit for society overall. Because the truth is older people have knowledge to give because we will experience things that you hopefully will never have to. And we might have gone through hardships that hopefully you'll never have to. So there is a benefit to listening to older people. That being said, older people are also somewhat out of touch with how the world works. And so there are things that we will tell you that don't apply and that are really stupid for us to say. And I'm sure there are things I say that are like way out of touch, but that's life, right? Yes, you're working to adopt you. You're still looking for your adultier moment? Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm still waiting for it. I don't feel it though. I don't feel it at all. I don't feel like an adult. I still have moments where I'm like, I don't feel like an adult. Like my brother is younger than me and I've always been his big brother, but he has more adult stuff in his life than I do. And I'm like, he looks more like an adult than I do. Not physically, but like when you look at his life and my life, he seems more like an adult than I do. And so like, I'm still waiting for that moment where like I feel like an adult, but I by all, intents and purposes, I am an adult. I have a full-time job. I don't have a mortgage, but I have rent that I pay. I've got my car loan. I've got credit cards. I'm an adult. Not one that can grow a good beard, but I'm an adult. But I just don't feel it. And so we have kind of that baggage that we carry because we were always told we were going to feel like adults one day, and it just never happened. And so we feel like we're just still waiting for it. Well, I'm glad you were able to get a house, Bitsy. It sucks that there's like a big downside to it, but Yeah, a lot of millennials are never going to own a house. I might be able to own a house one day. Right now, I'm not too interested in doing that, but I might. I hope I do. Because renting sucks. Renting really sucks. I hate renting. I hate it so much. I'm almost on the stream, so I'm not going to continue looking for a bastion. We didn't have any luck. I'm going to have to use one of those websites that point out where stuff is and see if I can find a bastion through the seed. Oh, damn, that really sucks, dude. Like I said, my dad just passed away about 3 weeks ago now. I'm 37, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to lose my dad. Because I'm like I said, the adulting thing, right? I still don't feel like an adult. There are still things that I rely on my parents for. Not like for them to buy me stuff or do stuff for me. It's just like questions that I have, right? Like if something happens, I can call I used to be able to call my dad and be like, hey, Dad, this and this happened. What should I do? And now he's gone and I can't. And my mom was never the one to call for that kind of stuff. Every time we called my mom, she'd be like, you should ask your dad. That really sucks at 23 though, because at 23, you're just barely scratching the surface of being an adult. So that's rough. That's really rough. I mean, I can't really say much, Bitsy. You've been there. You've been in a worse situation than I have, right? But you can definitely relate. I'm at that point now. I don't want to talk about it too much because I always bring up my dad during streams now. Obviously, it's really fresh, so obviously it's still on my mind. But I'm at that point now in my mourning process that oh crap, screw you, dude. That I'll suddenly just like break down and start like weeping, not just crying, but like full blown ugly crying. When I suddenly have that moment where I remember that my dad's gone. And that I remember like the implication of that, not just like, oh, he's gone, but like I fully have that moment of like, I'm never ever gonna hear his voice again. Like those kind of moments. I'm still, that's where I'm hitting now, where like I'm having those thoughts nowadays, which I wasn't having. It was like, he's gone, I'm sad, I miss him. But now I'm having those moments. Like we're gonna do his performance. And there's a song he used to sing that I don't remember all the lyrics to. It's a song that my uncle wrote, my great uncle wrote, and my dad sang it on our CD. And I didn't have the song and I felt so guilty because I had it and I lost it, like our CD, and I had no copies of it. And I found the CD, thankfully. Oh, I left my other pickaxe at the other place. Oh well. I found the CD and I listened to his song, just like the first 30 seconds of it with his voice, and just hearing his voice made me break down and start crying because it hit me like I'm never gonna hear his voice again. So like I'm in that aspect of mourning right now where I suddenly have really, really big breakdowns, and it's just really hard because like I'm going through a divorce, and so like I don't have anybody to turn to, and you know, she still lives here, but she was adopted, so she doesn't have that connection with parents that I have with my dad. And so she just doesn't get it. And she's kind of reached that point where she thinks that I should be over it by now and just be back to normal. So she gets really frustrated with me that I'm not like helping around the house enough, and she gets really rude, but it's mainly due to she just doesn't get that like it's not just going to go away. In fact, it's going to get worse as the days progress and before it gets better. So that adds a bunch of extra stress to me because like now I have to deal with being guilted about not doing the dishes today. But like she doesn't know that I spent like an hour and a half crying in my room or whatever. So like that's where I am right now, which kind of sucks. But overall, I'm doing okay. You know, I'm a grown ass man. I have my own life that I'm worrying about. So it's not like my life has come to a stop. And I've made sure not to let it come to a stop, if anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, at 17 is when you really, even though at 17 most of us are fighting against our parents and like really arguing with our parents, it's more to establish who we are as people. It's not to actually not want to be part of our parents' lives. Losing your parent at that point whether you at the time wanted to admit it or not, your parents have a huge influence on who you become as an adult, and losing them at that point when you're just starting to figure out who you are, that's rough, man. That's really rough. That's really, really rough. Oh, we win. Yeah, those are the moments that are so hard. Like, I'm so scared. We're doing this performance for my dad for the funeral, right? And performing is something that I do, and I almost go into autopilot when I perform. I don't think while I'm on stage. Just because as soon as I start to think, I start to screw up on stage. So I turn off my brain and I just let my body do what it needs to do for me to perform. I am so nervous for that first performance that I'm gonna do. I am so nervous on how I'm gonna react, because like I'm gonna try my best as a performer to not screw up, right? Like I wanna sing, and I wanna sing well, and I wanna make sure that I give the best performance possible. At the same time, it's a farewell to my dad. We're gonna be singing all the songs my dad sang, so I'm gonna be hearing in my head his voice doing it. And I'm going to feel guilty that I'm singing it because he's supposed to be singing it. And like, I'm nervous about that, because that was like IKEA was for you. That's for me and my dad, was the band. That was a huge, huge thing for us. That's like, I'm really, really anxious about it. I'm really anxious about having to perform. Yeah, no worries, Bitsy. No worries at all. No need to talk about it. I know that. I also wouldn't want to like trigger somebody else that might be going through whatever you went through, you know, by bringing something up that they potentially could be struggling with right now. But thank you for being conscious of that as well. But yeah, it's rough. Loss of a parent is hard, but when it's more complex than that, it really sucks. But yeah, onto more positive stuff. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with it. I don't know where I was going to say. Yeah, I've kind of been guilty of trauma dumping over the last few streams, but that's more to do just because it's fresh. It's fresh and it's my stream. But yeah, overall, you know, life, that's part of life. And it's an unfortunate part of life, but there's not much we can do about it. All we can do is try to comprehend that it's not something that like we're the only people that are ever going to experience it. Thankfully, not thankfully, because it kind of sucks, but at least it's not a unique situation, right? It's not something that like somebody who becomes disabled from like an accident. That's something that's not going to happen to everybody. So you do feel alone because it's something that you had the bad luck of it. But like losing a parent, although at a young age is much rarer, it's still at least something that other people are going to experience as well. So at least we're not alone in that aspect, you know, and that in a way helps. Not that it makes it easier, but it helps at least it comforts people knowing, like it comforts me knowing that I'm not the only person going through it. Right? Kevin Rules, how's it going? Welcome. Time for fun game facts. I'm actually planning to do a video. Thank you for the subject. Now I have something to talk about. I'm actually planning to do a video. I gotta be done in like 10 minutes anyway. On Atari. I'll give you guys a bit of a sneak peek, because there's only 3 people from TikTok watching and only 5 between Twitch and YouTube. I am going to be doing one of my longer videos. It'll probably be like 5, maybe 10 minutes if I can find I know there's a lot of info, but if I could find a good way to write the script, I might make it 10 minutes. Of like how Atari got started, how Atari was really responsible for the gaming industry to be born. You know what I mean? Like Nintendo is responsible for saving the gaming industry, but Atari is the one that really started the gaming industry, right? They were the first like at-home consoles that were mainstream, that had a variety of games, despite them being pretty subpar is a nice way to put it. I want to build more on my house. I might tear the roof down and build a wood roof. I want to make it bigger. I definitely want to make it bigger. And so I want to make a video talking about how they got started, kind of where Atari went, and then how they had their downfall when they were like releasing things like the Jaguar, and how they really just like messed up, and then kind of how they stuck with their retro heritage for a while and did make some games that were pretty decent through like the late 90s, early 2000s. And then I want to talk about where they've ended up now. So here's one of the fun facts I'm going to be talking about that I actually didn't know about this. So everybody knows about the Atari VST or VTS or whatever that thing was called, the little like classic console. When the NES Classic and the PS Classic all came out, they were going to do their own, and they were charging absurd amounts of money, and everybody was kind of questioning why they were crowdfunding, because they crowdfunded it, and they were questioning why they were crowdfunding when they're Atari, you know, a company that is a fairly large and reputable company. And so, actually, I'll just do this. And so it was kind of questionable. And then there was a bunch of issues, and apparently it came out, it was terrible. Like, you never hear anybody talk about it anymore because it was a terrible console. Well, I didn't hear about this, but they also did the same thing with Roller Coaster Tycoon. They did a crowdfunding thing for Roller Coaster Tycoon, and their whole video was them patting them. It was an ego stroke, really. You know, where they were talking about like, we're Atari. Yeah, that Atari. We know what we're doing because, you know, we've done like something $1 billion in sales. Yeah, we're good. Like, so arrogant and so condescending to raise money for a Roller Coaster Tycoon game that they wanted to bring to the Switch. Which, if they've got billions of dollars, why do they need our money to put a port on a console, right? They didn't say it was a port. They just said they were bringing Roller Coaster Tycoon to the Switch. It turns out that it was a mobile game that they were just porting to the Switch. So that's not a very complicated situation, really, when you think about it. So they could have afforded that if they were as rich as they tried to say. The crowdfunding had a minimum start, and it was something like $150 or $250 was the minimum you could support. And by doing that, you got your name put on a website. It wasn't even in the credits of the video game. It was going to be just put on some random website, which they never linked to, which they never have access to. If you can find it, great, but I haven't seen it. And then if you put $1,500, 1,500 US dollars down, you got a 25% off coupon for the game. Not $25, 25% off the game. The game was a $50 game, so that would like break down to like $10 off the game for giving them $1,500. If you paid the maximum, which was $2,500, $2,500 of crowdsourcing. If you paid that, you got a book from them with the Atari art, a book that you can buy a digital copy of for $10 or a physical copy of for $20. That's what they gave you for $2,500. That's what Atari gave you. And then they released the game, and it was a janky, broken mess that was a port of a gacha game on iOS and Android. So they went from being the creators of the gaming industry to people who scammed, allegedly, and stole, allegedly, money from people, all based on alleged lies, while still stroking their own ego. I'm saying that because I'm trying to be not super crude, about how wonderful and great and successful they are as a business. This doesn't even go into like them almost, I think they declared for bankruptcy, or they almost declared for bankruptcy. They ripped off a bunch of people with their rights, with their copyright stuff. They never paid what they were supposed to. They flat out lied to companies. The Roller Coaster Tycoon company, the one dev owned all the rights, then he sold it to another company, and that other company was using Atari to sell the game, and Atari told them they sold a set amount of copies of the game, and then that company went to Steam and looked at their page to see how many were sold on Steam, and it was like triple what Atari had said. So like Atari flat out allegedly lied about the numbers, like the scummiest of scumbag companies from the creators of consoles to that. So I want to make like a background history of what they've done as almost like a, this is why, I'm not going to, I don't know, I'm debating on whether I'm going to say it in the video or not, but like, this is why I call out Nintendo for what they do, because I'm a huge fan. But if Atari, who were the creators of the home console industry, really, fell so far, who's to say the saviors of the gaming console industry wouldn't end up down that road if they continue with this whole tyrannical, we know best mentality, right? I'm not saying that that's where they're going to end up, but it's a risk. And I wouldn't want to see that for Nintendo. I love Nintendo. But Atari's come a long way. They've come a really long way. It's disgusting. Like, people really criticize EA, and EA is disgusting, but Atari's got nothing to be able to compare to EA, because EA is like the CD Projekt Red when it comes to these two. You know how CD Projekt Red is like the good guys of gaming? That's EA when you compare it to Atari right now. It's gross. It's so gross. Oh man. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing the next video on. I have to work on it. I don't have motivation right now. It's really hard for me to be motivated. You know, my energy just isn't there. But I do have to get back into it. So that's gonna be what my video is gonna be about. I think it's really interesting to hear, right? Because a lot of people kind of laugh at Atari, but they don't realize how like genuinely scummy they are, and how they, you know, they earn some respect. They're laughable because they don't really have anything great anymore, but like they earn some respect because they have published some pretty decent games, and like I said, they created the whole home gaming industry, so they almost live off of that respect. But because of that, they're able to get away with how scummy they are. So I kind of want to make a video and just show how far they've come, like how gross it really is what they're doing, because that's just gross. At least EA, even though they try to pretend like they're not scumbags, at least like it's obvious what they're doing. Like, they're releasing games with a bunch of gacha mechanics and a bunch of like gambling loot box mechanics in the games, and the same game over and over and over again. And even though they're trying to be like, well, no, it's a little bit different, they still kind of acknowledge that what they're doing isn't exactly the best thing. But like Atari is like full-blown snake oil salesman, pyramid scheme, MLM level scummy, where they know full out what they're doing, but they're gonna totally tell you you're crazy for thinking that. So I want to make a video about that because I think it's really interesting. When I was listening to that, my mind was blown as I was watching a video that was talking about it, and I was like, I can't believe that. And it wasn't about Atari, it was about Roller Coaster Tycoon, and that was just one of the facts that they brought up. It was just insane. It was just absolutely insane to hear that. But I think it would be really, really interesting for people. You know, because I'm always looking for things to talk about. I also want to do one like the history of Duke Nukem. I want to do the history of like Doom. You know, there's a few things I want to kind of cover. But the Roller Coaster Tycoon one I think is really interesting. Oh, not Roller Coaster. The Atari one I think is really interesting, just because it's so disheartening to see such a wonderful company initially turn into such a scummy company down the line, you know? That's awesome, Bitsy. Like the voice guy, I don't remember the guy's name, St. John, something St. John, isn't it? Man, Duke Nukem was the one game. My uncle bought it for me when I was like 12 or 13. He bought me a box set of it back when DLC was called expansion packs. He bought me the Duke Nukem all-in-one case, and it came with like all the expansion packs. It came in this giant box, and even though I was a kid, if you played it now, Bitsy, it's very politically incorrect. It's very misogynistic. It's everything that would not fly nowadays. But I loved it as a kid, and I spent hours and hours and hours playing that game, and I quoted it left, right, and center, like all the time. I loved Duke Nukem. I loved Duke Nukem. I can still go back and play the original. I have the original on my Switch, and I still go back and play it every once in a while. I would love to meet the voice of Duke Nukem. I think that'd be really cool. I wish that they could save Duke Nukem. I would love to see them do it again and do it justice, not let the same guy take care of it. That's why I want to talk about Duke Nukem, because of Duke Nukem Forever, the guy who worked on it, he was the main reason it failed so harshly, which is why I want to cover it. But I would love to see them try again and put it in some competent hands and see what could happen if they put it in some decent hands. Anyways, I got to get out of here. I got to go pick up Nora from school. Thank you everybody for hanging out. I'm sorry that I started streaming slightly late. but you got to watch me destroy my mouse. I hope that was worth it for you. Anyways, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go pick up Nora. I gotta go and you know, do some adulting. Thank you all for being here. I doubt I will be live tomorrow because I'm gonna have a really late night at work tonight. But I should be live again on Wednesday, and I might do Dead Island. I don't know. I'm liking this. Like I'm liking playing Minecraft, but I do wanna play something different just to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, my poor mouse. The funny thing is everything works except for the scroll wheel. That's really a bummer. I'm hoping that by leaving it for a while, maybe it'll dry out and it'll be okay. We'll see. I don't know. Hopefully. I don't know. We'll find out. Thank you, Ewan. Thank you, everybody else, for being here. I really appreciate it. I am going to get out of here. TikTok, thank you for hanging out, and I will see you later. Bye, TikTok. Okay, and Twitch and YouTube. Like I said, I will be back on Wednesday, probably. Yeah, today's Tuesday, right? I'll be back on Thursday, probably. I can't make any promises for Wednesday, just because tonight I'm probably going to get home at like 5 in the morning, and so I won't have the energy to stream. You know, simple as that. I will, Weewin. I will. But yeah, I will be back on Thursday for sure. All right, everybody. Have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon. Take care.